Hey everybody, Joe Dungan coming at you with another episode of Joe Dungan's Talk Show. Here I am next to the side of Walter White's minivan with WC. There he is, my WC Field statue. Isn't that adorable? Big doings for me today. I'm going to go be an extra, like in the TV and movie industry. I got my little bag packed here. Isn't this adorable? I think I got a couple little clothing items I need me to bring. I think my dad used to carry his golf spikes in that bag. That's how old it is. Today, part 2 of my interview with Susan Ruth, the amazing Susan Ruth, the multi-talented Susan Ruth. I watched part 2 again, and I'm going, I really don't like myself in this. And I know it's not about me, but as the guy interviewing the guest, I should be, decent. And I guess I was decent, but I think I interrupted a lot. I swore a lot. Why was I cursing so much? I don't know what that was. And then she would say these profound things she would go on. And when she'd finish, I just kind of stare at her like an idiot. I don't know why I'm doing that. Anyway, it's not about me. It's about her. If you can sit through my incoherent ramblings, I wasn't even on drugs. I don't know why. Anyway, she says all kinds of cool stuff, really heavy stuff. She talks about the beginnings of her podcast, which was not a vanity project. It was born out of pain. It was born out of her searching for some kind of meaning. And her podcast, Hey Human, is stunning, the people she interviews. And she talks about how she's interviewed murderers, a Klan member, all kinds of people across the spectrum, and what motivates them and why they chose what they chose. We talk about things being a choice in life. We get into some really dark areas. She talks about how she almost died or did die and saw herself dead. And that gave her some perspective on our whole existence on this planet. But it kicks off right now with a little, a follow-up to what we said at the end of the first one. Remember at the last interview where we last left off, this is my first cliffhanger two-parter. Usually they're kind of self-contained, but I got to explain what happened in the last one. It ended with a story about her talking about how she got totally ripped off in the music industry. She was working on an album. She was this far away from superstardom, and this lunatic that she got in business with absconded with all the money, just embezzled, stole all the money, disappeared to Europe, and she was left financially and emotionally devastated. And she tells a story at the beginning of this podcast about something that happened to her years later that put all that in a completely different perspective. And that's how we start. So you can imagine how the rest of the show is. So buckle up, get a beverage, and watch part 2 of my interview with Susan Ruth. Did that moment spin you in some direction? Did you suddenly think, well, wait a minute, maybe, as you said, maybe this isn't all my fault. Maybe this was just a thing that happened.
It was a relief in a way. It was still, it couldn't bring me back all those years or, put me back somewhere. But I had another experience that happened in Nashville when the Amy Winehouse documentary came out, and I went to go see it. Have you seen that documentary?
I have not.
It's excellent, and it's tragic. And what a talent, firstly. But yeah, it was torturous. It's so sad. But as we were walking out, I went with my best friend Ellen, and as we were walking out of the theater, and I've told this story on other shows and stuff, so forgive me if you've heard this before, anyone listening, but walking out of the theater, and I was sobbing, and Ellen's like, are you okay? It was sad, but what's happening? And it was, I think, a bit of hysteria in a way of what never released way back when or something. And it was this moment of understanding. It was a deeply spiritual moment in that I knew why this person had stolen all that money and stopped my career on a dime. I knew that I would not have survived had I been thrust into superstardom, because I hadn't done any of my mental health work. I had a very traumatic childhood in spaces, and I hadn't done any of that work yet at the time. I don't think I would have survived it. I would have either taken a bad review, or if somebody had judged my body or something, whatever, it would not have been. I think I would have gone to dark places and not come out of the other side. And I looked at Ellen and I said, I would have died. I know it. I wouldn't have lived through that. And it makes me choke up now. It's like, I had things to do, and I thought that was my path, and that was the reason I'm here. And it turns out that, you can only see so far ahead, but that perhaps who knows whether this is true or not, the roadmap is actually illuminated all the way to the very end, and that there's some other powers that be, or power that can see, and you had the wisdom to say, sorry, we need you here for something. And so, and if I look back, like the work I do now with Hey Human Podcast, to me, I think that's an important thing to put out in the world, where I just sit back and I let people talk about who they are and where they're coming from. And I think that's so valuable to get that out in the world. And that would have never existed, maybe. Maybe it would have, but maybe not. And other things that have happened along the way, conversations I've had, moments of reaching out and helping someone up out of their own hole, things like that who's to say? But I knew more than anything in that moment, and I cried, because it was a cry of thanks. It's like, thank you for knowing better than I. And that movie in that moment showing me like, that aha moment. God, it was like a dam broke. I can't even really truly describe it well, but it was akin to a spiritual experience for sure.
I think you're describing it really well, and it makes total sense. And I cannot imagine the shock of seeing a movie like that, where you see the path you would have ended up on. Because that's what you're saying. You're saying she had not dealt with her shit yet. And when fame hit.
Well, she turned to drugs and alcohol to dull pain. Her family, I have family members that would have absolutely been like her father. And, and so all of that, without me doing the work that I have done for my own mental health along the way, my self-loathing, my body dysmorphia that I had, growing into my 20s, things like that. I wouldn't have handled it, because we all know how brutal the industry, all these industries are. Now, as a grown woman, I'm like, fucking bring it on. Good luck trying to break through. I feel good. I'm grounded. I've done my work. I've healed a lot of nobody is 100% ever, but I'm certainly healed in the spaces that what other people think of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
And to get to that spot.
That's a profound quote. I have to keep reminding myself of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's heavy. And then, so how long after, I'm just trying to step out the timeline here. How long after this very unfortunate embezzlement, that's what it was, from then until you saw the Amy Winehouse documentary? How many years passed between those two things?
Well, shoot, what year did that come out?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Was it like over a decade?
Yeah, maybe. We can Google it.
Okay, so then you see this and then you're thinking, whoa, that awful
thing.
That
was a gift. That was just a pure gift, that moment.
And then now, so you see this movie and then you're thinking, okay, well then what should I do at this point? How do you figure out?
No, at that point I already was doing all these other, now I want to know what year that came out. Do you have the Google machine?
The Google machine? I have it handy. I will live Google this right now. What was the name of the Amy Winehouse documentary?
I think it was just called Amy.
Winehouse Documentary.
I think there's been a couple. This was called Amy. I'm almost
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the podcast had come out.
So you already started doing Hey Human at that point.
Started doing Hey Human at this point. Had gotten the Reba cut by this point, which was great. Had my house in Nashville. I don't know, done a ton of therapy, all that stuff. Helped other people through their crises.
What's weird is that this documentary suddenly provided context for all of that.
Yes.
So you're saying, well, I'm moving forward.
And it's not like the documentary didn't have any moment like that in it. The documentary was tragic and horrifying and brilliant, by the way. People should watch it still. It's so good. But for me, it was an aha moment of like, you think you know stuff and you don't, because you can't see. That's that thing about you can't see past a week or a month or 10 years or 20 years, but you fucking stay here, damn it, because you're needed. And I think that's what we forget.
Right.
We think, what am I? Who am I? This sucks. This thing has happened to me. And what's the fucking point of any of it? Well, I am here to tell you there's a point to all of it. And please just stay here on the planet and tomorrow or the next day or the next month or whatever. And whether it takes therapy or meds or a good documentary or just an understanding that nobody else knows anything, including you, just stick around, you know?
And we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people too. I think that's incredibly toxic, and it's an easy trap. Comedians, I'm sure it happens with singers
is a liar.
too.
Yeah.
What's it in what?
Comparison is a liar, and so is fear. Fear is
a
liar.
And plus, you're not comparing the whole picture either. I mean, you might look at someone's career and you're going, well, do they have, how rotten is their home life? What kind of demons do they have chasing them during the day? Yeah. So I've learned, stop comparing your insides to everybody else's outsides, because that's not apples to apples at all. And
some people with really lovely upbringings still have demons.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's
there's no rhyme or reason to it, and it's a Venn diagram that is mind-boggling, really.
Yeah. I've learned just try to keep your own house in order as best you can, and try not to worry about the rest. You were also talking about the origins of the Hey Human podcast, and this is kind of a shocking story too, about how you decided, I want to hear people from different walks of life tell their stories and find the good in humanity. What spawned this?
And not just the good. I mean, find the bad in humanity too, and try and understand it. Try to grapple with it. Because I've had some interesting characters on the show where, you know, and it's the thing. Like I've said this before. I've interviewed murderers, and I know during the interview of the murderer that they have murdered, yet I am capable of murder. And to have that understanding of oneself, to touch that in oneself, it changes everything and how you deal with the world. You know, it requires empathy for sure, but it also requires stepping outside of yourself and seeing yourself not just as a you, but also as an us. Again, hard to explain.
Yeah, it's very heavy, because there is a certain interconnectivity among all of us, but I've never actually thought about, am I capable of murder? I guess technically I am, but it's not something I think about.
No, I mean, I'm not sitting there making lists, but anybody who's ever, you know, gotten so mad at someone that cut him off in the freeway, I'm like, wish somebody that did you wrong just drop dead already, or, you know, any of those things. That's all a manifestation. It's great to get that stuff out. I think that the people that shove that down and don't admit that they have those shadows, that it festers like a cancer.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So what was the moment that made you say, I have to start this podcast?
There had been yet another shooting, and it had there were two kind of right on top of each other, and I just couldn't wrap my head around the loss of humanity, not just the loss of human life, but the loss of humanity that led to that. And knowing, especially for example, the Pulse shooting, right? The guy that committed those atrocities, you know, was struggling with feelings of being gay. And so instead of touching that and getting to the root of that and dealing with that feeling and being okay with oneself outwardly, right? He went and shot up the Pulse nightclub. I mean, it's far more complicated than that, but that's sort of an overview, right? So there was that shooting, there was another shooting, and I'm on the phone with my father. He's in Seattle, I was in Nashville. And I'm sobbing, crying, trying to make sense of the world and just failing. And he said, you know, you have to look for the good. And I said, what's the point? We've lost something. Something is now missing from us. And I don't know that we can get it back. And I'm so scared and sad for humanity. What can we do? There's nothing. And he said, just keep looking for the good, which is a great thing to say. And I think, I mean, some great minds have said things like that, right? And my father in moments of stress is really good at trying to calm me down. I got to the grocery store. We said goodbye. I got to the grocery store. I composed myself and went inside and had the most beautiful interactions with a couple of humans in that store that, to me, in retrospect, and even in the moment, felt not of this world. And just angelic. And from one guy calling me sister, while he was talking to me, he kept calling me sister. And this little girl that didn't say a word, but just smiled at me like nothing you've ever seen, just truly an angelic smile. And I walked out of that store dumbfounded, got into the car and drove home. And I thought, this is what it is. This is what it is. We're connected. Those two people, it's almost like they sensed, because I was, I had cleaned up my face before I went in, and I was making conversation with the man in front of me in the line, and the little girl was behind me and all that. But it's as if they knew I needed that thing, but of course they didn't know, but maybe they did on some deeper level. So I went home and I decided that Hey Human was what I was going to do. I knew what I was going to call it. I knew what I wanted to do with it. And I made a list of people that I wanted to talk to. And I had no idea how to do a podcast. I didn't know anything, but that's never stopped me before. So I just went for it.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. But to your point about the store, I think that's another reminder that, try to be the best version of yourself that you can, because you don't know what kind of butterfly effect you're going to have on other people. And why be a dick anyway? I mean, what's to be gained from this?
That's a choice. Being a dick is a choice.
True.
Yeah.
True. I've had moments where I'm going, Joe, at the very least, stop talking. If you can't fart rainbows, then at the very least, just keep your mouth shut. That was me towards the end of my full-time job. I was so unhappy there. I had to just say, just don't talk. Just too many snarky things are coming out of your mouth. You're going to get called into HR if you're not careful. Just stop talking.
Yeah.
How you doing, Joe? Fine. And just get your decaf, get back to work, and put the headphones on. So, yeah, you're right. It is a choice. And do you think happiness is a choice?
Yeah, I do. But I do think that if you choose to be happy on any given day and you do it enough days in a row, your brain will eventually be happy. Now, that's, again, a very simplistic, and I'm talking just general, not people that have severe mental problems, issues, chemical imbalances, things that drug addiction, but the list goes on and on. But yes, I think that there is something to be said with today. I'm going to choose joy. And here's my thing too. Joy stealers can suck a dick, because it is okay for people to be out there feeling joy. And the people that make fun of that, or their little snide comments or whatever, or the trolling, let people, if they want to wear a silly hat, if they want to fly a rainbow flag, if they want to wear a polka dot and a striped sock, who the fuck cares? They're happy. If people aren't hurting anyone, if, animals and children are safe, let people have their joy. The joy stealers are just a certain kind of demon in my estimation.
You find that it's easier to avoid them, and attracts like, and then the joy stealers aren't showing up as much.
That's true. I do think that's true.
I think there's some truth to that also, because I've found the more as I've changed over the years, I attract different people.
Yeah. Also, the joy stealers can't get bigger if you don't give them the power. So if you look at a joy stealer and say, I don't care what you think of me, it doesn't matter, then they wither.
Or say nothing.
Yeah. Things grow where they're watered. Don't water it.
No, exactly. Don't water it. No,
that's true. Everybody says, oh, joy grows where it's watered. But you know what? So does fear. So does hate. All of that stuff. Just don't water that crap. And actively, protect other people in their joy, I think is also important. And
this all goes back to, that obscure thing I heard years ago, which makes more and more sense as years go on. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, you say that, then I'm thinking of that going, yes, this all starts to make more sense. What is your day-to-day like now? Are you still writing songs for people in Nashville? Are you emailing lyrics to people?
I do write with artists in Nashville. Yeah. In fact, I have a single coming out on an incredible artist named Hadley Canary. The single will drop in July, I believe, and it's called Possession of Pain. Really proud of that song. We wrote that together. And I wrote with an LA artist here named Sammy Plotkin. He's phenomenal. And every once in a while, my admin will contact me, or somebody will contact me and say, oh, this song is getting put on this thing. And, they're like your little babies. You send them out in the world, and what becomes of them, who knows? But Hadley and I wrote that song a couple of years ago. So sorry, I keep rubbing my nose. I feel like my nose is running, and
mine does too.
Nothing to have it immortalized on this.
Mine does too.
It was a good interview, but she had this booger that kept Who knows?
She had a booger that was heckling her.
Joy to the booger is all I'm saying.
That's your next song right there.
Yeah.
Joy to the booger.
So I do still do music. I try and practice my piano every day and guitar. Don't practice as much as I should, but I would love to perform out again. It's just, COVID had other plans. And then I just started writing script. So I optioned my first short film, and then I sold my second short film. So that's exciting.
Great.
Yeah. I'm working on a feature right now, and I've got the writers group that you're in as well. And that's a lot of fun. And what else? I'd like to dip my toe in the acting pool as well. Even just as a character actor or like a dead girl. I always say that, like, I would be such a good dead girl. Just, I can lie very still, put some leaves in my mouth. It'd be great.
Put some leaves in my mouth. Hey, they dug me up. The gardener found me. I'll put leaves in my mouth. I'll sit here through lunch.
Whatever works.
Put that on your resume. Some people will not line up for that stuff.
That's true.
How much time do we have? Do you have to split? Because there's one more thing I want to ask you.
I'm still doing good. I also do the abstract paintings. That's the other thing that I do.
But now before we get to that thing, let me ask you, how do you know day to day, week to week, what thing you want to work on? Because it sounds like you got half a dozen things going on at once.
Yeah, I just work on the thing that I want to work in that moment. And then if I have a pressing thing, I'll put that at the top of the list. I'm a list maker as well. I'm always writing notes and doing things. So, and I cross things out when I accomplish them. It feels good to cross stuff off.
If I don't do that, my days just go to shit, and I'm just all over the place. And I go to bed going, what did I actually do today? So, yeah.
And I have learned over the last couple of years how important not doing anything is. It took a long time. I would feel guilty or lazy or less than if I wasn't going all the time. And that is an unsustainable way to live your life, especially as a creative, because probably as anyone, but you have to replenish, you have to imbibe, words and music and movies and literature and people's conversations and coffee shop. You have to be a part of the cacophony in order to replenish your stores.
I've also learned if I'm tired, I just fuck it. I just lie down. I know I don't care if it's 4 p.m. I'm done. I don't feel like doing anything else today. I'm just fried.
Yeah. So, fuck the nap stealers, right?
Yeah. Fuck the joy stealers. Fuck the nap stealers. If you don't feel like, I've learned to listen to my body is what I'm saying.
That's good. That's important. Yeah.
Just relax. Now, speaking of your body saying things, you have died before?
Twice.
Not near death, but you've died twice.
Yeah. I drowned when I was 3, and then I died on the operating table in my early 20s.
Wait a minute. You drowned when you were 3. How do you did the doctors tell you afterwards you shouldn't be here?
They pulled me out and they had to resuscitate and bring me back. My parents, were there. So.
How long were you unconscious?
I don't actually know. Long enough to quit breathing, but not long enough to kill off my brain. Probably some of my brain. I'd be so smart if I hadn't done.
Maybe it's what made you a creative.
Yeah, maybe.
That might have been just enough damage to go, oh, now she can invent all these things.
There you go.
So were you in a pool? Were you at the ocean? Where were you?
Yeah, I was in the Mediterranean. Yeah.
Your family, y'all flew to the Mediterranean when you were 3?
Well, my mother was finishing up her doctorate. She's an archaeologist, a Greek historian. And so she was doing work for that. So we were all there. And
now, how did someone just see you fall into the Mediterranean?
Yeah, a stranger. There's a joke in my family that my mother tried really hard to knock me off while we were in Greece, because I climbed to the top of the Acropolis, and they had to just wait for me to come back down. And then also the authorities found me clinging to the rocks over the sea and had to bring me back to my. So,
I think young Susan wanted off this planet right from the start.
I think I had some help here and there, but yeah, my mother had some, issues, a lot of issues. But yeah, but it's hard to keep a good soul down. So
do you remember being dead when you were 3?
No, but my body remembers, because to this day, whenever I get into water, my body has a slight panic response. And if I'm out in water where I can't see the bottom, I'm the one that goes swimming with the life coat on when I'm on a boating thing, because my brain can't, like, I can swim on my back for a while, I can swim forward for a while, but something happens where if I start to lose that feeling of security, I might start to panic. So it's just nice to have that little buoy attached to me. I don't have the confidence to swim without that. And I'm saying in a pool, it's a lot better because, I can just stand up. I'm 20 feet tall. But
you're only 19.
Though people do drown in shallow water, everyone.
Yes,
so.
that can happen. Be careful.
I read that people can drown drinking water and like breathing it down the run. That screwed me up for years, knowing that.
Oh, no. If you're in the wrong frame of mind, you don't need to hear that.
Yeah. I was like,
That's
oh my
bad.
God.
Now, and then you almost died on the you did die on the operating table?
I did.
How did that happen?
And I stepped outside of myself and watched them work on me. I heard everything, saw everything. And I knew, again, apologies for people that have heard the story before. I knew that, that we had all agreed to this moment. Everyone in that room had agreed to this moment, and that I was to die, and that somebody was learning something. I knew that. And that once that was figured out, that I then could get back in. And that's exactly what happened. And then I remember Dr. Seeley, going to say, oh, he said, we lost you for a second. And then I was out again. Yeah. So it was very clear.
How long were you dead?
I don't think super duper long enough to have the wherewithal to be like, oh, I'm going to be standing here for a minute. I didn't go to the light Carolan or any of that kind of stuff. I was just standing there kind of biding my time. I wasn't happy. I wasn't scared. I wasn't mad. I wasn't anything. I was just, this was what we agreed to. Here I stand for a few minutes. They'll figure it out. I'll pop back in.
So it sounds almost like a dream.
Yeah, I suppose. Except for they asked me about it afterwards. So everyone was aware that I actually died.
And so afterwards, were you traumatized? Were you horrified? Were you just
no,
the story?
I wasn't horrified or traumatized. I think I felt like, oh, okay. It's just death isn't really final. It's just a thing. It's just it's a, metamorphosis. And then,
well, that's nice to know.
And I was sentient, I stepped out of myself, saw myself there on the table, and that didn't freak me out. It was just, oh, yeah, there I am. Or that's my meat stick or whatever that I'll get shoved back into,
So that's what I look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wait, I got to work on my hair. I got to work on this. I got to work on that. Okay. If I get back in there, I will go to the gym and work on myself as best I can. Did you know these two experiences where you died? I mean, how has this affected your creativity, your worldview? You're like, I'm going to live as fast as I can because the end might be any second, or you take everything a little more in stride, or what does this do to you as far as your day?
I don't always take things in stride, but I think I can maybe a little bit better at that than perhaps the average bear. But I think, I don't want to die or anything like that, but I'm not afraid of that. I'd be irritated because I have stuff to do, and I better damn well have had a good meal.
Who wants to die hungry?
Yeah, that would be the worst. That's just mean to let somebody die without a really good last snack. Yeah, I don't know. I dropped a lot of acid when I was in high school, which I think already opened up my brain to a lot of possibilities. And between that, I think I have access, as I think all people can have access, whether if they work on it or whatever. But I think I have access to parts of my brain that allow me to see things and hear things and feel things. My intuition now is pretty heightened.
That's what I hear. I mean, that's what I hear about acid. I assume the acid is what helped you with the intuition.
Certainly, it was a good starting spot. And it's funny too, because people, of course, logically would also say, oh, if you had such great intuition, why'd you let someone like that terrible person do such but I had experiences with people that were my mom throughout much of the first half of my life, until I realized that wasn't okay. I don't know. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I dated guys that were like my mother. I was drawn into worker things like that. I had bosses like that. So
Oh, I found myself in situations like that because I didn't know any better.
Yeah,
And I
and
look
I
back
think
now, I'm like, Jesus, I wouldn't. There's no way I would do that right now.
Yeah. Oh no. And I think I was learning what wasn't okay by process of elimination and through therapy and all that stuff. And that's like, oh, wait a minute. I've been fucking dating my mom all this time. Jesus, enough of that, you know? Yeah, you start to feel out humans a lot better the older you get, I think. Some people are naturally good at it, but it took me time because of my trauma and yeah. And that deep wanting to trust people that were not trustworthy. That was, you know, reflected back on wanting to be loved by a person that wasn't capable of loving me. So yeah,
I mean, it's a tough lesson, but I mean, good on you for figuring it out.
Yeah, well, me and a few therapists.
I asked about the acid because I have a friend who is going to grad school. At least I hope she still is. Maybe she's not. Where she's studying the effects of hallucinogens and psychology.
Cool.
And apparently that's a thing. This is not quackery. It's not quackery. There are professionals going, you know, if you take the right hallucinogens or ecstasy or other things in the right combinations under the right circumstances, you can suddenly unlock a lot of stuff and get through a lot of things.
Microdosing for PTSD, for depression, for lots of different things. Yeah, there was a lot of studies of that happening early on in the 60s and 70s, and then the government kiboshed it, but now it's starting to come back again. So yeah, I have friends who have done ketamine treatments and microdose mushroom treatments with their psychiatrists and all sorts of things. It's not for everyone, I'm sure, but if that's, I'd rather choose me take mushrooms perhaps than some of the other drugs that are given for certain ailments, because at least the mushrooms are natural. But then so is cyanide. So what do I know? I'm not a doctor, but.
Right. But I mean, the pharmaceutical industry is so whacked. I mean, I knew we were in trouble when they came out with Abilify. Abilify is a pill that helps another pill. I'm going, no, that's a Ponzi scheme. You can't, you fix the first pill. Stop making me take a second pill to fix the first pill.
Or fix the problem with the person and stop trying to medicate us all to fucking high heaven.
Thank you. That's the other thing.
Let's begin and get to the trauma of a thing.
Exactly. That's why I'm always, pills are never my first choice. Like, wait. Why am I feeling this at first? I've had those moments where I'm in pain until I have some kind of an emotional release. And then suddenly my leg pain is gone. Well, gee, mind-body connection. What a shock.
Yeah.
This is so heavy. This is like alcohol conversation. I mean, there's so much. And then having lunch with you and Roberta the other day, because the two of you, that was a show. That Roberta Kung, who I should probably have on the show someday, because she has a lot of interesting things to talk about in her journey. But watching you two together, you two should take this on the road. I mean, seriously, the two of you together, I'm just watching. I had a ticket to a show yesterday at lunch. That was amazing.
She's great. I love her. And she was very kind to be on Hey Human Podcast. And yeah, the minute I met her, I was like, oh, I'm going to know this person forever, Yeah,
she
is a deep well. And what I love about her is that she's also willing to say, I don't know, which none of us know. We're all figuring it out. We're all discovering. And even all the shit I've said today, if you were to say definitively, do you believe X, Y, or Z? I would say, I don't know. I mean, I think so, but who knows if I'm right? And that's okay. We're so hell-bent on wanting to be right about things, but you know what?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
But I mean, you thought you were right when you signed with that record person before they swindled you. So you got to trust your instincts here and there once in a while. Otherwise, you're just going to be sitting at home all day. So, take a chance. Where can people find all the things that you do between the music and the painting, the poetry and the this and the that?
Yeah. So SusanRuth.com, SusanRuth.com for pretty much all the things in general. You can find my music under Susan Ruth on iTunes and Spotify and all that stuff. HeyHumanPodcast.com for the website of the podcast, but you can find Hey Human Podcast everywhere at this point. I'm pretty sure it's on all the apps. It's on iTunes, iHeart Radio, Spotify, and Stitchers and all the different things. That kind of, if you want to email me, please do. Susan at HeyHumanPodcast.com. I like getting mail, even if it's email. And What else? I'm trying to think if there's any other. Social media. Susan Ruthism, SUSANRUTHISM is Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then Hey Human Instagram and the Facebook Instagram. I'm sorry. Hey Human Podcast on Instagram. Hey Human Podcast on Facebook. That's a lot.
And soon to be an actor, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we'll see. I think it would be a blast. I would love it. So.
Yeah, I actually just dipped my toe back in those waters myself. I've permanently retired from acting at least twice, but I'm back at it again.
Good.
So I could tell you a few things at least. And by the way, I did listen to some of your songs finally. I found them on YouTube and they're stunning.
Oh, on YouTube. So you heard stuff from the second album. Because I have a couple. Those are were they videos of me?
There were stills. There were still pictures.
Oh, okay. Well, the album that is my most recent album is called All I Ever Wanted Was Everything. Really proud of that record. How to Say Goodbye is more rockin'.
There's a lot of soulful, very sad, heavy songs. I'm like, geez, this is good. But
well, I don't know. All I Ever Wanted Was Everything was a mix of all sorts of things. I put the album together for sync purposes to get people for TV or film or whatever. So they're more vibey, more jazzy, more things like that. Yeah. I'm not sure which one you listened to. Did it have the bird?
Yes.
That's All I Ever Wanted Was Everything.
It had, it's called Top Tracks. Sunflower, Breathe Her Air Again.
Oh, no, those are from, Breathe Her Air Again is from my first. Is this from the first record? It might be from the third record. And then Sunflower is from the second record. Those are two rather sad songs you found.
There's a lot of them are sad. I'll listen to other stuff because I'm
top on Spotify or something?
It's on YouTube. It's called Susan Ruth Topic on YouTube.
I didn't know it was a topic. How exciting. If you go to
YouTube by Ditto Music.
Oh, weird. I have you should email me that link. I have a YouTube channel. I think it's just Susan Ruth Official, or maybe
I will email you right now because it sounds like
that's not my channel. So.
Oh, sorry about that.
I'm excited that somebody put a channel together of my stuff.
Who knows? They might be monetizing without you. So these people might be swindling your ass, which is not cool. So
welcome to the internet.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but check out All I Ever Wanted Was Everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will find it. Susan, thank you so much. Gee,
thank you.
Your stories and the depth and the philosophy, my God, it's heavy and wonderful all at once. So I'm glad you're alive.
Me too.
Glad you made it out of the Mediterranean. Glad you made it off the operating table, and good on you for figuring things out and taking the higher road. Because I think what happened to you, a lot of people would be like, fuck it, I'll just drink.
I had a few cocktails along the way. Thank you, Joe. I've had a lot of fun, and talking to you is a blast. So anytime you want to.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Cool. Thanks for thinking so much of this. Ciao.
Yeah. Bye.
Most people's stories fascinate the shit out of me because I've lived frightened my whole life. I've lived very conservatively. So when people are saying, oh yeah, I was 12 and I got on a plane and flew to Poland and walked around and had a kielbasa. I mean, what? How did you do that? I drove around in a van in Idaho and played for $43 for a bunch of drunkards in Dunderfuck, Idaho, and then Frog Balls, Wisconsin, and whatever. I mean, that stuff amazes me. And then you got fucked over by this asshole, and then I'm going, I would have probably become an alcoholic.
Well, like I said, I think actually being fucked over by that guy maybe kept me from becoming an alcoholic or a drug addict.
Yeah, it's just something how people find their things. And then like with Roberta, I'm going, because I alluded to it and she's mentioned it. I don't think she became a doctor for the most organic of reasons. There was a lot of pressure on her.
A lot of pressure. Yeah.
And yet she has spun it into a life that she seems to like living.
But this is how we become diamonds into ourselves and of ourselves, is that all this pressure, all these things that happen to us as we move through our life, you know?
And then the heavy thing for me is also the whole thought of free will, because you think you want to become a star, and then years later you see the Amy documentary going, oh, thank God that guy swindled me. Otherwise I'd be dead.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it?
such a heavy message to figure out.
Yeah, it's weird. And I might be wrong. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but it sure felt in the moment. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? We don't know when our last day is. It could happen to any of us at any moment.
Yeah.
And it could be as arbitrary as just getting a drink at a bar and some loony coming in and shooting us dead, or walking across the street and being taken out by a bus, or, just being in a leisurely car ride and someone crossing the median. It's weird to think about. People get hit by lightning. I mean, how random is that? Trees fall on people.
Did you ever see a movie called Run, Lola, Run?
Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, how it's the same movie 3 times, but it's 3 different movies, all because of she goes left instead of right or something, little shit like that, or she runs faster in one or the other, and this family ends up winning the lottery because of it in this version, and this family ends up in the poorhouse in this version, all because of this butterfly effect of all these things happening at once. So yeah, slot machine. If you wait 1 second and then pull the handle, do you win the jackpot? Or, or if you wait 2 seconds, is it different? Or
right. That's why I get so frustrated by people who judge other people's religion or economic status or anything, because it's truly arbitrary that this person was born into this family and this person was born into that family. And that's the other thing I try to come across with the Hey Human, is that you are who you are because of a whole lot of just luck of the draw or not luck of the draw, and choices made and choices not made and roads not traveled. And I mean, it's 1 or 2 steps out the door to be the guy in the tent on the corner. And I think the more we realize that and remember that, the more empathy we will have in our hearts toward our fellow human. But I think we have a long way to go to get there.
Right. But as I said, I'm a little hopeful. As I said this at lunch the other day, I heard someone say this during the pandemic. I forgot who it was, but he says he thinks this pandemic on a global level is actually something of a good thing, because it's made us all realize we're interconnected. You could be rich, you could live on an island somewhere, and guess what? You still got a lockdown.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cancer didn't make people realize that. I don't know why the coronavirus would, but maybe because it's more televised. But yeah, I mean, we all are just going through shit. And it doesn't matter if you have a $5,000 Dolce & Gabbana water bottle, or, an Aquafina water bottle, or you drink out of the fountain at the end of the hike. You're the same person trudging up a hill, sweating, and maybe having to go to the bathroom before you get to the bottom, and you hope you make it.
I think about this also with children, like what you were talking a moment ago about people were born into. I think about that when I see kids who are, it's one thing if you're born in Pittsburgh and you become a Pittsburgh Penguins fan for hockey games. Well, fine, everyone needs a team, whatever. But these families who are like nuts and they indoctrinate their children into being in racism and shit like that. Like,
yeah, you had to be taught.
How do you extract yourself from that as an adult?
Well, it's tribe. Being a Penguins fan, being a KKK member, being an Orthodox Jew, being an atheist, being come from a family of scientists. It's that Venn diagram, and people will be horrified to say, what do you mean? That's nothing like a Klan person. But it's the idea that everyone is trying to belong to something. And sometimes love is an amalgamation of hate, and sometimes it's an amalgamation of love. But it's the same feeling, if to be welcomed into hate feels probably a lot like being welcomed into love. It's the welcomed in part that is the thing.
Yeah. And I've heard that a lot about these hate groups, is that they get alienated youth.
You bet.
They get, the
Klan guy that I interviewed, he's like, I look for the people that are disenfranchised, that are depressed, that are standing by themselves, the kids whose parents are ignoring them, or, putting them in front of the TV and, whatever.
This guy admitted his tactics to you?
Yeah.
Did he have any sort of like willing to change, or is he like, no, I'm a bigot, I'm on a build the tribe?
He was perfectly fine with who he was, but it was a really fascinating conversation.
Wow.
Highly recommend it. It's
I will hunt that
30.
one down. Are there moments in this interview where you're thinking, I got to challenge this motherfucker? Or were you being objective, saying, why do you believe what you believe?
I did both, but I did them both in a way that I think allowed him to be honest and open with me, if that makes sense.
if you're not threatening, I mean, first of all, Zoom, you're in different cities. So
no, I went to his house. This
what?
was the first, this was the first year of the podcast. So it's episode 30. I still was figuring out sound and all that kind of stuff, but I went to his house. I was really not comfortable with that, but what else am I going to do? Have him to my house, you know?
Yeah.
So not that I wouldn't, but it's just, I felt more comfortable going to him. So yeah, that's what I did.
How about that, huh? Susan Ruth, the real deal. She's such a genuine person. You know what I mean? Seems like she's just in it. Just like, oh, this is the universe? All right. What do you got, universe? Let's try this. And she's just feeling it all and trying to get by as best she can. And good on her. Multi-talented person and just still at it. Just, I don't even know what she's doing right now. She's probably creating something else because she's just one of those creative types. It's important to know oneself. It's important to know if you are a creative type, or if you're a widget maker, or if you're a managerial accountant, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just no judgment. Just whatever you are, know thyself and do thy things. I can reveal this now. It was official last week, but the rocks were shifting in the garden. But I landed work on a commercial. I am flying to Mexico City Wednesday, the 16th of June, to act in a commercial. Probably not. I'm a backup actor. Weird. Yeah, I know. It's pretty unusual. But they hired backups for every part on this commercial. So they're flying me out. They're putting me up in a hotel in Mexico City. It might be just 48-hour turnaround. You fly out there, the next day they shoot the scene with the other guy, and then they're like, okay, we're wrapped. Get a good night's sleep. We'll take you to the airport tomorrow morning. And that's it. And I might just spend 48 hours in a hotel room in Mexico City catching up on my reading. I don't know. And that's the way it is with life. You don't know what's going to happen. We think we do, but we don't. And this is great practice for me to live with uncertainty, because I don't know what airline I'm flying out on. I don't know what hotel I'm staying at. I don't even know if I'm going to have the gig. I just don't know. So you think you know stuff, but you don't. And it's important to just go through life not knowing everything. For example, I don't know why W.C. Fields is looking at my butt.